And those two things, number one was, the first thought was discipleship. That I believe the Lord wanted me to come back to the States to really push what he emphasized in Scripture, which was the American church at large. One of our problems is that people do not make disciples. We've come up with a system where people show up and they're so dependent on someone else to feed them. And they'll do that for years and years and years and say, okay, you feed me, and then your staff disciple me, and then your staff take my kids and you raise them for me, tell them about God, tell my teens about God, tell my college student about God, tell the women about God, then they have men's ministry, tell the men about God, and it's all about the staff trying to do everything for the church. And yet what I see in Scripture is that that wasn't the design at all. The design was that you were supposed to be doing that you actually make your own disciples, and that it was the leader's job to equip you so that you go out and disciple other people, disciple your own kids, disciple your neighbors, teach them about God. I mean, that was the great commandment that Jesus rose from the grave and said, go make disciples now. That we are supposed to prepare you so you could be on your own. It's like my oldest daughter, she's 15, she's a junior. And I think, wow, she's a junior in high school. I got like a year and a half left with her. In a year and a half, by that time, I want to make sure that, okay, that she can survive on her own, that she can work her own job, that she can make a living for herself, that she can develop, start her own family or what. I mean, you should wait on that, I hope. The whole idea of self-sufficiency. I don't want my daughter 15 years from now saying, Dad, can you raise my allowance? Right? You don't want it back on, hey, can I live with you guys? Can you feed me? Can you give, because I can't work. I can't do this. I still need. No, our job as parents is to raise them to be independent. And that's the same thing in the church. The job is not that you come back 30 years, in 30 years still going, will you disciple me? Will you feed me some more? That's why in Hebrews 5, Paul says, this is crazy. Many of you should be teachers by now, and I'm having to feed you the elementary truths again? And so it's to bring back this mindset that is in many other countries, when they view Christianity, that's the way it works. Here we've got this other system where people are still here after 30 years and still scared to be sent out, still can't name a single disciple, a single person they baptized, led to the Lord, or taught them the ways of God, and they don't even feel comfortable teaching their own children about God. And so it's like, okay, let me help formulate a system to help equip you. See, here's what I want. I want to know that if you were the only, okay, think about this, if you were the only Christian in Simi Valley, just you, would you be confident that you could grow in the Lord? And would you be confident that you could actually lead other people to Jesus and teach them how to grow in the Lord? See, some of you can do that. And others are going, there's no way. If this weren't here, I'd fall apart. It's like, okay, that's fine, but let's get you to that point. That's the job of the church. And as we all start doing this, because look, even sometimes you'd go, oh man, I wish I could bring Francis to work to share with my friend. It's like, no, you. Like that's the whole point of the Holy Spirit coming into you so that you would go and make disciples. So I'm very excited about that. I was talking with the elders about it yesterday morning, and I've been working with some of the pastors here, and we've created this way to help equip people so that you would feel comfortable teaching others and the church can become what it's supposed to be. So I'm very excited about that. And then the other thing that I felt like the Lord wanted me to come back to the States to talk about and emphasize before I go anywhere else is this issue of marriage. And so it was really cool when Todd told me, hey, I want you guys to talk about marriage. I go, man, that's exactly one of the reasons why I feel like I'm back in the States for a while, is to really emphasize this issue. And the main point I want to make is I think we've been looking at marriage in the wrong way in the church. There's probably some of you here who are thinking, man, I'd love to serve God, but first we got to get our marriage together. And so you focus on your family, you focus on your marriage, you focus on your kids, because you're going, man, we're not the model family. I shouldn't be leading. I shouldn't be teaching. And I'm saying if you try to do that, it's never going to work. What I want to say to you is being focused on the mission is actually what brings your family together. Otherwise, it's like saying, I really want to get in shape so I can go jogging. Actually, if you just jog, you'll get in shape, okay? That's the way it works here. And so this whole idea of, well, I don't want to serve yet. I mean, the thing in our marriage has been from day one, it's been about, gosh, we're supposed to make disciples. I mean, we were married a couple weeks when I said, I think we're supposed to start a church. Okay, that's what the world will tell you. Don't do that. That first year of marriage is supposed to be just for the two of you. Okay, don't get into ministry. Focus on each other. You need to be about yourselves. Get that right. And then once you have a kid, it's like, well, it's a new baby. So just, you gotta really nurture those first couple of years. It's like, oh, now they're in school. Okay, well, until they're 18, you really gotta just focus on your family. And I'm saying that's going to destroy your family, and it creates a terrible model for your kids of, oh, okay, family comes first, serving God, we can put that aside until it's convenient, and that's going to destroy you. The very thing that bonds us together is the fact that we're on this mission together. It's like Jesus says, if you seek the kingdom first, if you seek first, number one, what is the most important thing? Most important thing is the glory of God and his kingdom for the people on earth to understand there's a king up there. And it's all about him. And I got to get people to come under his leadership, under his lordship. That's what it means to make disciples. That's what Jesus rose from the grave to tell me to do. And as I seek him first, the other stuff will happen. That's why in that passage in Matthew 6, he goes, don't be like everyone else in the world, the people who don't know God. He calls them the pagans. He goes, they think, oh, I got to get all this money so I can get food, and they're worried about clothing. They're worried about this and that. He goes, no, I don't want you to be that way. That's the way they do it. He goes, you seek first the kingdom, and all this other stuff will be given to you. You put me first. And that's what I'm saying. When we put the family first, and say, okay, man, we got to protect this, we got to guard it, we got to work on our marriage, and that's your emphasis, then you're just like everyone else out there that just wants a happy marriage. And what God says, you seek the kingdom first and watch what happens. Watch what happens in your family. Watch what happens in your marriage. Watch what happens with your kids. I mean, I was scared, when I left here. There was a fear like, oh, this is what I know, and this could screw up the family, and all of you are warning me going, oh, but your kids, like you're tearing them away or this or that, and they're going to hate you. And it's like, no, this was the very thing that made us so tight as a family. I didn't realize that, but do you know what it's like to be in India and hold hands as a family and say, God, is this where you want us to stay? When you're you're just going, man, God, is this it? And then to end up in a city where we don't know anyone, no friends, nothing, like, okay, guys. Man, it just even a couple of weeks ago, my friend and I that I met up there, we did this conference in the inner city of San Francisco. We said, let's do a conference where it's not just singing and teaching all day long. Like, let's have them actually do stuff. And so they showed up, and hundreds of Christians showed up. In fact, we had to turn away a couple hundred because we didn't have room for them. And so, we do a teaching time in the morning, a little worship, and then for 8 hours, they're walking the streets, sharing their faith with people, getting the homeless people, feeding them, everything else, washing their feet, cutting their hair. We got medical teams. We got all of this stuff. And while people are in line, everyone's just telling them about Jesus, listening to their stories. Tell me about your life. These people, no one ever listens to them. So it's like, man, tell me about your life. How'd you end up here? And just treat them like normal people, and then start to share with them the love of Jesus. And so for hours, we did that. And then at night, we worshiped again. And it was like, man, it was just powerful. We're just looking at each other like, oh, that was it. That's what church is supposed to be. This feels very New Testament. No one wanted to leave And with all of that, here's my family who's with me. I'm teaching. Lisa's leading worship. I see Rachel for like 4 hours just sitting on this stool as homeless men and women are staying there, and she's washing their feet, scrubbing their feet for them, and sharing Jesus with them, and doing pedicures, and this to see your little girl doing that, and then to see little Mercy, little 11-year-old knocking on apartment doors. Do you guys need some groceries? How can I pray for you? And then telling people about Jesus, and then as a family just kind of getting back together, and I can't tell you the bond of that. Okay, it's not, yeah, sure, it's fun to go on vacation, whatever, but it's something about serving the God of the universe, and the unity that takes place when you're on a mission together. It just happens. I mean, how many of you ever gone on like a short-term mission trip, like just a couple weeks or whatever? Okay, a lot of you have been on a mission trip. Okay, think about the people you went with on your last mission trip. You thinking like a missions team? Now, were those people you would normally hang out with? A lot of times, no, right? You get there and you're like, oh no, I'm going to be with you for 2 weeks, right? Like, it's just the most awkward. Like, you got all these different types of people. But what happens by the end of the trip? You go, wow, I actually missed that old lady, or that little punk kid. Like, man, this weird, like you become this family. Why? Did you get together and say, you guys, let's try to be really tight? No. You got on a mission together, and by the end, you're like, no way, I love these guys. I miss these guys. Why? Because when you seek the kingdom first, all the other things come together. And that's what I'm saying, man. I'm not some, marriage guru to say, oh, here's how you do this. All I know is I've tried to serve God and try to lead my family wherever the Spirit's leading us to go. And as that happened, it's like, man, look at our family. This is ridiculous. Our kids are holding hands, hugging each other, loving each other, can't get enough of each other. It just, crazy things start happening. You go, wow, we weren't even pursuing that. We were pursuing the kingdom, and everything else fell into place, and we experienced God together. I got to tell you one story, though, and then you can go. That conference, okay, I shared at that Forever Found thing that you guys did on Thursday night at Wood Ranch, which was beautiful for human trafficking, which even that, if we could learn to if you went there as a couple and you hear about kids that are raped for 14 hours a day, every day of their lives, and you go there as a couple or as a family and suddenly get your mind off of yourself and your little problems of, oh, I got a B-, and you go, are you kidding me? People live like that? And suddenly your whole family goes, come on, you guys, we got to do something about this. We got to figure it out. That's the stuff that pulls your family together. That's the stuff when you as a couple get off of yourselves and oh, you're not pleasing me, and back and forth and go, oh my gosh, 70 million people are starving in the Ethiopia region right now with the famine going on. Like they're just starving, like they're just dying. Boom, boom, boom. Another one just died right now. Like you start focusing on that and decide, we got to live for this. We got to do this. Is what God created us for. You talk about unity. Okay, that's how you bring yourselves together, is not by focusing on each other more and more and more and more. It's about the two of you going, hey, let's actually do something with our lives. Let's actually make disciples. Let's actually care for the poor. And God says in Isaiah 58, just you do that, and I'll just go, man, here I am. What do you need from me? And that's why that conference. Okay, so we were doing it on Friday, like 2 weeks ago. On Wednesday, the Wednesday before the conference, we realized how many people were coming, and we said, we have to make 10,000 meals to pass out to all the people in the area, to the homeless, to the apartment. 10,000 meals. And the leader just gone, we have no meat. Like zero. This is a very boring meal. Hey, here's cheese. I mean, it's just like, wow, this is going to be awful. And so he asked, it's like, can I borrow your credit card? It's like, oh, I don't know if it'll work. Try. Right after he announces it, An hour and a half later, about an hour and a half, hour to 2 hours later, Trader Joe's calls us out of the blue and says, our freezers all just broke down. Yeah. And do you guys have any use for all of our meat? And they bring a U-Haul truck filled with like marinated, pork chops and chicken and ribs and steak. I mean, Trader Joe's. I mean, not like John's Market or anything. It's like Trader Joe's. It's like, I tell you, we all just got the chills like, you're kidding me, God. You are kidding me. And so then I tell you, then all day these people are passing out this food that they know this came from God. We're on this mission from God. You start experiencing things like that, like a family. And I'm telling you, all the other stuff, the petty stuff we're fighting over, it really make no sense when you start looking beyond yourself, focused on the mission, seeking the kingdom first. I really believe that is the answer to our marriages. So, Lisa.